Hey everybody, and welcome to section 3 of Pose to Pro. In this section we're going to be covering sequences. We'll cover how different sequences can be used in your project, why different resolutions matter and why they don't matter, and how you can use different sequences to manipulate for Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all those things. Roll it. Okay guys, welcome to section 3 of Pose to Pro. We're going to be talking about sequences and how to set them up going forward before you begin any editing of your project. So I already have Premiere Pro open, and I'm going to open this 200-hour yoga teacher training fall 2019 file that we made in the last episode of this course, just to play around and show you this in. So if you remember from the last course, or the last class, we made a master sequence, and this sequence is 1920 by 1080p in resolution. As you can see here, it is 29.97 frames per second. So the master file that you made has all these folders. Everything's blank. You have a blank canvas good to go, and we have that master sequence there. Now, I want to import one video clip, and you can do this by, let's see, you would go to Raw, double click, and then you can either right click and import, or you can double click inside that folder and import. I'm going to navigate to this projects, 200 hour, and I have actually put a clip inside of here of my friend Sydney doing a yoga flow. So we're going to import that clip. Now, this clip is already 29.97 frames per second, but as you can see here, the resolution is different from the resolution of our timeline. Our timeline is 1920 by 1080. This clip is 380/40 by 2160, which is a compressed 4K, or a cropped 4K clip. So now I'm going to exit out these things. So now if I were to take this clip and I want to put it in my timeline, I can just drag it all the way down and just boom. And this dialog or this pop-up window comes up and says, this clip does not match the sequence settings. Change sequence to match the clip settings. And I have this as always ask because I do want this to come up. But for now, we want to keep existing settings. So boom. And I'm going to get rid of this window. So now, as you can see, this clip inside the program window. But this clip is essentially 4 times as big as the timeline is. And I'm going to show you that here. So if you go to your program window and you select, let's say 25%. So this gives you that. And then you come in here and you double click on the actual clip. You can see this is what the actual clip size is. So we're missing all of this information right here inside of our actual window. Now there's 2 things you can do. You can either grab this and just scale it down to fit. And we're good there. Come back here, go to fit, and that just makes your window fit this right here. And so now we're good. Now we see everything's good to go. Perfect. Or we can hit Command Z on a Mac, or just File, Edit, Undo to do that, and it brings it back to the same size. So we're at 25%. Double click again. We see that this 4K clip is still big now. We can actually go down here and right click on the clip and do this thing called scale to frame size. Boom. And it's going to make it fit exactly into these things. Now, but if you go and double click it now, you can see that everything is good to go around here. Now, this won't always happen as far as like a perfect fit. Some clips are different resolutions, so you might have some a bleed over right here, or maybe up top, But when you right click this scale to frame size, it's going to scale the top and bottom of your clip to the top and bottom of your what the resolution of your timeline is. So just to go through all that one more time. So this video, we're going to open these folders here. You can see that Sidney Duarte flow, the clip size is 3840 by 2160. And then this sequence that we created earlier is 1920 by 1080. So they're two different frame sizes. And then all we did was we right clicked and scale to frame size. But we can also unclick that and this clip will go back to its original state. Now, the cool thing about a 4K clip in a 1080p timeline is this clip, you can drag it around and kind of crop it how you want it. So maybe that's all you want to show in your clip as it plays. Or maybe you just want to show this part of your clip as it plays. And I'm scrolling through this because this file is a pretty big file. It'll lag, so I do apologize about the lag. But essentially, there's so much resolution inside of this 4K clip that in a 1080p timeline, it'll look fine. But typically, you're going to want to just scale it to frame size so you can see how it's intentionally shot. So there's that. Now, I'm going to leave this clip in this timeline. Another thing you can do is, let's say you found the video, you have your clip here. You can drag this onto this little piece of paper right here, and it will make a new timeline based on that clip. So now we have the Sidney Duarte flow test, which is the name of the clip, and it just named a sequence. So as you can see, this is the clip, this is the sequence. And if you want, you can move this sequence to your sequences folder just to have it more organized. But now we have a sequence that is the same resolution as this clip. And if you want to check that, you can go up here and go sequence settings, and it shows you the width and the height of that sequence, as well as the frame rate. And just to see on the master sequence, that's 1080, you go to sequence settings here, and we see that it's 1920 by 1080, 29 frames a second. So boom. So that's another way to create a sequence. Now, when you finally are ready to export after you've edited your video, you can see how, so we'll go to File, Export. Let's say we wanted to export this media. And this is the 4K sequence. So this dialog pop up, you can actually choose, and we'll get into this in a later class, but you can choose what you want this to be. So this 4K clip, it's saying, okay, let's keep it at 380 by 40, or 380/40 by 2160. Or we can uncheck that and say, hey, let's make it 1920 by 1080 instead. So you don't see any difference here, but when you go to export it, that's what the final resolution of the video will be. And so we'll get into all these settings in a later course, so don't really worry about that right now. So in the last course, we show you how to make a sequence. You can always go File, New Sequence. This same pop-up will happen. You can choose the resolution and the frame rate. It even gives you a 4K option right here under this presets. There's that. So you can always choose any of these. But as long as you're at 1080 by whatever frame rate you want, you're good to go. So let's cancel that. And then we showed you how you can take a clip, and by going down here, it just by dragging it onto this piece of paper, it creates a new sequence. And that's what happened with this one. Okay, so now let's say that in this 1080 master sequence here, we have a finished edit. and we wanted to export this. Well, the way it currently sits now with this 16 by 9 frame is what you would watch on like a normal TV, on your laptop, on apps like Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, anywhere we have like this normal frame size. And then even in an Instagram feed, you would see it like this as well. Now, you could just totally export that and you'd be good to go. But let's say you want to export something for IGTV. Now, I'm sure you've seen on Instagram TV, when it was first released, all the video was in a frame that was tall, like your cell phone. If you were holding your phone normally, the frame would be more of a rectangle. But now they have the option to where you can upload on IGTV like this, and it'll just give you the option to flip it on your phone. Whereas you used to have to export something in this frame for it to fit on there. So I'm gonna show you how to make that frame. So you would go File, New Sequence. You still want it to be 1080, and you want it to be 2997. But let's go over here to Settings. And instead of the width being 1920 and the height being 1080, you just want to reverse them. So let's go 1080. Oh, let's not do that. So I'm sorry. So go back, New Sequence. I just hit undo there. That's why that went away. So 29 frames a second. Settings. You want to go here. You want to do 1080. And you want to uncheck this little link. If it'll let you. 1920. And actually I'm sorry. So yeah, duh. So don't do this. This is the video preview. You want to do this here. So you want to do 1080 here and 1920 here. Boom, perfect. So that gives you a aspect ratio of 9:16, which is essentially, this is 9:16. It's just going to turn it over on the side. So we click OK. Let's just name this IGTV sequence just for now. Boom. Perfect. Now we have this frame that looks exactly like what you would see on your cell phone. And it is 1080 in resolution. So we're going to take this Sydney clip and we're going to drop it in there. Boom. And the question comes up, hey, do you want to change the sequence settings? We're going to say no. Perfect. Now, it has this crop. And so you're missing a lot of information like this. Now what you can do is, if you want the viewer to continue to look at the content that you're producing in this frame standing up right, meaning you don't want them to turn their cell phone to view it, you're going to have to take these clips that were shot in this 16:9 wider frame and just kind of center them. And you're going to lose information, like you're going to lose some of this visual, but you want to center it up to where you are seeing the majority of the content. And so that doesn't look too bad for that particular clip, but obviously during this flow, we're losing her legs, we're losing some of her hand here. There's that. Now we could make the clip smaller, and to do that we'll zoom out here, we'll go to 25%, and we could do this, and now we could have it fit like that, but this will be blank when we go to export. So you want to keep these things in mind, and when you're creating your commercial, your video, your content, whatever you're doing, you want to, do you want people to view it this way? Or do you want people to view it, like if they're going to watch it on IGTV, do you want them to view it tall ways? So you might have to get creative and build these templates out to where maybe your video is this small. And then, so you have your main video here where people can still see it. Like on a cell phone screen, that's still pretty large. And then you don't have to remember any of this right now, but maybe you create a background for your video that looks just a little bit better. I'm going to say, I don't know, let's go blue. And this blue Now we have a color template, and let's just name it blue, and we'll throw that in graphics, and we put it under our video here. And so now this is what your screen would look like. You know, I mean, obviously this looks awful. It's not great graphic design by any means, but then, you know, you create a title, you say Sydney, and then this dialog pops up, and we'll get into all of these features later on in other courses. This is just to show you certain things. So yeah, Sydney. So you might do that, create that. So now we have this title that we can fade in. And then, so as your video is playing, and then you have, boom, the name comes in, and then it's over. So frame rates, or frame sizes rather, and frame rates, and the sequence settings, they're important. You need to know what those are before you go in and set up your video, because you don't want to edit a video in a timeline like this, and then figure out that you want it to look something like this. Now, you could finish an edit in this frame, export it, bring it back in as an individual video clip. And with that, let's just do an example. So I'm going to find like a finished project that we did. This is let's just do this Bank of America time lapse. So like this is a finished video. Actually, this isn't a good example. Let's do something that actually has edits in it. Let's do new CLT time lapses. Okay. So obviously this was finished in a clip like this. And I'm just going to turn the sound off. So obviously you see the edits, boom. But let's say I finished it in this frame, but I really wanted it to look like this in this frame. So I could still bring this finished clip over into this IGTV kind of preset. But as you see, it's going to do that. So then I could just scale it down, you know, put it where I want it to. You know, if I wanted to bring that blue background over, I could do that. And, you know, you could still do that. So it's not the end of the world. It's just an extra step in your workflow that you might not want to have. So always just keep in mind with that. And then let's see. So we'll get rid of that. Get rid of that. So yeah, that is pretty much it for sequences. And if you ever get lost, this is why the organization's there. You can always have your sequence bin. Your sequences will always be here when they're active. So like if I close Sydney Duarte and IGTV, you can just find them here. Sydney Duarte pops up, boom. IGTV sequence, boom, pops up. That's the way you find those. And so you're always good to go. And then anything else, like I said, you can always find the sequence settings. So you go sequence settings, shows you what the frame size is, the aspect ratio, the frames per second, all of that. So you're good. So that should cover sequences. And in the next lesson, we'll get into an edit. We'll finally get to start editing. I'll show you what these tools are, what all these mean. We'll show you what this clip does, or this window does, and we'll get into more lay of the land of the software. It's going to be really cool. So again, if you have any questions, you can email me at william@brooksjamesint.com. You can DM us on Instagram at brooksjamesint, or you can comment below wherever you're watching this, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, anything you need to do. Just hit those comments, and definitely share these videos, guys. This is for anybody. So I will see you in part 4. Peace.